In this latest WaterBear video about songwriting, we're now looking at the future of the industry for professional writers. Everything's changing all the time. The platforms that we use to get our music out there change year on year, even month by month, and even week by week sometimes. So where's it all heading, and how does this affect us, the creators of new music? Where is the songwriting industry heading?
One of the biggest things I'm noticing is music specifically written, recorded and released for streaming. And some of the biggest examples of that is I've seen some bands at festivals kind of bomb, but at very least the audience being really flat. And then I've sat back and gone, oh, this would be great on headphones. And I'm like, this is designed to be listened on headphones by a teenager on a bus. And when you're there, I remember listening to the Arctic Monkeys or whoever, you know, loud rock music. Not everyone wants that. If you're stressed and if you're on your phone as well, what you kind of want is that background music. That sort of, you know, almost like binaural beats, I think they're called, that just sort of like meditate and sound cool. That's a lot of the Spotify top 100 most times of the year.
I suppose like it's going to be that thing of like how easy is it to separate the weed from the chaff? You know, how easy is it to, you know, because it's tricky. Like, you know, people say like, oh man, where's that vibe gone? Where's that vibe gone? Nothing. I don't think anything's disappeared. It's just like what we get given. You know, creates stuff that's harder to find. It's hard to kind of forecast where it's going to go outside of that. There's just going to become even more of it. I guess it then boils down to a keen ear and a keen eye and whatever, you know, and those roles within the industry, be they label, independent, whatever, whoever you are, to be able to try and find good stuff, which is why the point I'm trying to make about the separation. So maybe that's the biggest challenge. It's going to be how to find stuff that's going to be able to continue on and amass followers that want to sing it back.
For sure.
You know, I think, yeah, the forecast for songwriting is there's just going to be more and more. And the facilities that you can create, exactly, you can create a song on the loop if you wanted to. Like, it's nuts, but like, I think that's a good thing too. I think that's a good thing. Anything that breeds creativity should be a good thing.
I think producers are going to become almost more like session players, like more like a hired gun that comes in, and co-writers. I think producers are, the way I think music's going in general, is you're going to see a lot more, because of like the way social media is, you're going to see like a lot more like mini supergroups. So it's actually just one person's band, but they've brought in all their mates from other bands to be part of it. Because that's easier than running an entire band sometimes.
I think there will be much more reliance on singles and regular releases, because what I'm seeing is my favourite bands release an album every 2 or 3 years, and it's like they're making a comeback because they had 6 months off. So they didn't have anything to put on their socials or, you know, Instagram for 6 months. You know, sometimes people think, oh, he's died, or they've stopped doing it, they're broken up. And every time they come back, it's like they're getting back together again. It's like, no, they're used to the old model of 6 months in a studio, 1.5 years on tour, 6 months off. You can't really take 6 months off anymore in the social media world. So yeah, I guess they're the two biggest things.
And then I think the producer is going to kind of be a member of these bands. You know, they're going to either play in stuff or they'll play in a bunch of different stuff, and they kind of help develop it and write it. The producer is going to be like the developers and the almost like kind of like an A&R almost. Like they're going to help find these bands and develop them, which is like the old, what A&R used to be. Like you help them develop, and I think that's how it's going to become. And I think obviously producers have very much, it used to be that you'd have a producer and an engineer, and very much the producer engineer role has kind of become one, because yeah, don't get me wrong, you get people who are just engineers, and it's important to understand the people who are just engineers and they're not necessarily a producer. And then for me, I would say I'm a producer who has learned how to engineer. I think there's far better engineers than myself out there. Like I've got mates who are way better engineers than me, but I class myself as a producer rather than an engineer. And when I go to Brighton Electric, I always have the house engineer setting stuff up, because like he works that studio every day. I'm not going to waste hours trying to find things when he knows where it all is. So I think, yeah, it's going to develop into this role of producers are going to be like the A&R almost, and help develop projects, and you kind of become known for your roster of people you develop.
I think obviously a lot less people are using studios now, like actually going out and paying a certain amount to use the studio, and a lot more people are doing it from home and going to producers' houses and doing it that way. But I don't think studios will ever die out, just because I think there's something there's a really cool thing about the process of going to a studio and doing everything, and obviously doing stuff like recording live drums. That's a lot harder from your home. So I don't think a lot of people are like, yeah, but the studio's gonna die out soon. Like it's all at home, but I don't think they will, just because there's a lot of things you can do at a studio that's all there. It's all set up. So I think there will always be a need for it. But I mean, a lot of vocalists that I know, when they're working with other producers and maybe aren't from the same city as them, they record vocals themselves just through like a USB microphone onto like Logic or whatever, and then just send over the stems. But I'm sure they'll develop something where you can record deep, like really good sounding vocals straight into your phone. I'm sure that will be developed soon. Oh, that's something that will happen soon. So you can literally, just record straight into your phone and send it over to someone in a high format. So I don't know whether that'd be some sort of sound card that would go through like your input on your phone.
I don't think it matters where the technology goes, as long as we use it as a tool for being creative. Creativity is the ultimate goal. So it doesn't matter how, because that technology is already there to be creative on a phone. It doesn't matter how you're creative as long as you are. I think you've got people who, you've got people who still want to work on tape because that's what they prefer. That's what gets that's their vibe. It's all about capture, and vibe is what makes you creative. I was doing something the other day, and the guitarist was playing a bit weird, and we were using the Kemper. And I was like, oh, you vibing this tone? And he was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, you're vibing it, but you're not playing right. I put him through an amp, and it was just like, there we go. Like everything, all of a sudden he was playing like him. It sounded like him, and that was because we were using this new technology we had, but he didn't get the right vibe, so therefore we're not being creative. So ultimately, it's just about being creative. It doesn't matter. Technology will it's only going to get crazier, but some people will probably still just record on tape. There's still going to be those guys out there who will want to record on tape because that's what their vibe is.
When I first started songwriting, I used to go on Tumblr. So I used to go on Tumblr and I'd type in like indie, and it would all come up with indie pictures of like, so I'd type in like music and stuff like that, just be like cool photos. And a lot of people, they had like songwriting books. So I went out and bought a little book to write all my songs in. So originally, when I'd write lyrics, they'd be coming straight to my head really quickly, but then I'd struggle to get them actually out of my arm and onto the paper really fast. So I started actually typing it, but then I was like, it would be cool to have an actual book that has all my lyrics in, but realistically it's just, because I'm not very good at writing, so I find it a lot easier to just tap it out on a laptop or on my phone. And most of my songs I actually write on buses. I don't know why, the music comes to me, man, when I'm on the bus. But yeah, so I normally write most of my lyrics on my phone on a bus and then just kind of voice note it as well. Voice notes as well.
So looking back 10 years ago when I kind of first started songwriting, I didn't really understand GarageBand and stuff. I didn't even have an interface, but I figured out a way to do it through like the 2-track of a PA or something into a computer. And I was always just recording very basic ideas in, but that helped me capture my ideas. And now, everyone can almost get a copy of whatever on their laptop and do it anywhere in the world. So I think we're at a huge advantage now, especially with the plugins available to us and the different drum libraries. You could make a whole record and never have gone into a studio and it sound just as good. And I think as songwriters, that's a huge advantage. Like it's never been so accessible, I think, to capture your ideas and to build them to such a high quality. We've never been able to sort of capture it to such a high quality before, I think.
So there's some thoughts about the future of professional songwriting. Now, if you're there planning your own future in professional music, then don't forget WaterBear can help you do that. You can do that in the context of doing a degree with us or a master's, and it's all about one-to-one discussion and negotiation to work out where you are how you fit into the industry and how to get you from A to B, and making sure that's realistic and achievable. And nobody gets there on their own, and that's why we are here to help.